good morning, evening, afternoon, night, whenever you may be listening to this. I am, first of all, I'm Nikki of Nikki'sConfettiLife.com, and you are probably looking at this on my YouTube channel, The Garden of Mind. I am once again at the park, and this is another impromptu video. As you know, I rarely edit. We're just going off the cuffs here. And right off the rip, as they say, as we say, as I used to say. Um, let's talk about being misunderstood. Let's talk about that. And why do we want to talk about being misunderstood? We want to talk about being misunderstood because it has been a theme, undercurrent, popping up here and there, sometimes like a tidal wave in my life. And recently, it reared its I'm not going to say ugly head, but it reared its let's say teaching teaching moment or cap or something like that. Its crown, let's say that. Because some things, is brought back up to teach you, or is brought back up to remind you. It comes back up to let you know there's still a little work you need to do here and there. And being misunderstood sometimes is a trigger for people. Being misunderstood sometimes makes the person that's being misunderstood feel upset, feel judged, feel um, alienated, isolated, not being understood. And as I say that, I think about Stephen Covey. I'm saying that right, I guess, or Covey, Stephen Covey, and listening to his CDs a long time ago, which is the Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. I think that's it. But seek ye first to understand, and then to be understood. When I tell you that stuck with me, not because I don't seek to understand others first, but because I am often or have been misunderstood. And sometimes being misunderstood is because maybe your communication isn't effective. But even if my communication is effective, sometimes I'm still misunderstood. Not necessarily because it's not necessarily about communication. It could just be about my actions or my thought process or my ideals, ideology, my methods. So about it's not always about being understood in this your communication. Sometimes it's even how you come across. But to but to get into where I want to go and try to get there quickly in this short video is sometimes people don't intentionally, most of the time people are not intentionally trying to misunderstand you. And then there are people who misunderstand you because they have their own their own way of thinking. They misunderstand you because they don't understand that they don't have to be you. They don't have to think like you. And more so, they don't understand that you don't have to think like them, do things like them, be uh be who they are, have the morals and values that they have the same principles and and they don't realize you don't have the same religion they have. You didn't grow up like they grew up. You didn't grow up in a place they grew up. You didn't have the family dynamics they have. And they misunderstand you because they think that you should think like them, be like them, and they don't factor in all those things. And like I said, sometimes misunderstanding someone is a breakdown in communication. And sometimes misunderstanding somebody is not knowing the background of what they do, why they do it, and how they do it. So you can be misunderstood in that way. Then we get to those who are committed to misunderstanding you. That's it's something wrong with them. Okay, I'm just gonna say it like that to keep it. It's something wrong with them. They need to work on it. You know, they intentionally misunderstand you to create division, to create an argument, to create a power dynamic in which they win. So they are intentionally trying to misunderstand you, and they're not trying to resolve a problem. They're either trying to keep a problem going. Like I said, it's a power struggle, it's about power dynamics, it's about feeling dominant and those things. So they're intentionally trying to misunderstand you, misquote you, say things um, that you didn't say. So what you said was, you could say the sky is blue today and it's cloudy. So what you're saying is men and women um, can't be friends. It's like, what does that have to do with what I'm talking about? You know what I'm saying? Apples and oranges. And then there are those you can say, the sky is blue today, but there are some clouds. Oh, so what you're saying is it's really cloudy outside. No, I'm saying what I'm saying. And now you see what I'm saying. There are people who are committed to misunderstanding you and misquoting you. But what I have learned through Lent is whether you are being misunderstood unintentionally or intentionally. I'm getting closer to say this as if you can't hear me. You need to be okay with being misunderstood. That was the message to me. I need to be okay with being misunderstood, whether it's unintentional or intentional, whether you've tried to verify and clarify and you're still misunderstood, whether you review back in your mind or say, maybe I need to say it clearer, maybe my message wasn't this, maybe my delivery was this, and after you've gone through all those things, look, you need to be okay with being misunderstood. And then I had to do a quick deep dive because now I can do a quick deep dive at times on myself. And I in those moments within the last week or so where I've been misunderstood, I mean, I got to the point in one of those situations was like, why does this bother me so much to be misunderstood? To when I know who I am, what my values are, what my morals are, what I stand for, my intentions, when I know my heart, when I know my soul, when I know my weapon, when I know my what I need to know. Why does it hurt or bother me so much to be misunderstood? And right back to childhood. In childhood, and this just doesn't mean in my family, but in childhood coming up, I was different. I was different, one, because I'm an African American. Um, I was a girl, woman with red hair, and that was rare or rarely seen, not necessarily in my family, but by other people. And it made me a target growing up in school, bullied, talked about, you know, all kinds of things said about me not really being black, or I must be this or that, because I have red hair. Children can be cruel, and I forgive all of you in elementary and middle school. Anyways, you ain't know any better. So that made me a target. But also being different, being a creative, being artsy, being the oddball, being the thinker, being someone who was not a follower or just veer off on my own path or interested in things that children wasn't interested, adults wasn't interested in my environment. It made me different, and it made me a target, and being sensitive made me a target. Why are you crying so much? If you look at her, she'll cry. you know you want to do what? No, don't do that. Just odd, just different in those type of ways, and feeling like I'm just not understood. Nobody understands me. People don't understand me. And when I did get around people who did understand me, oh, it was a joy. It was a blessing. Good friends, connections, people that let you be who you are and try to understand you, or say, hey, I never thought about that. Let me try that too. Or, what's up with that? Why do you like that so much? Oh, I understand. That's cool. Those kind of things. It mostly come from childhood. Yes, family included, but not exclusively about being misunderstood. You know, she kind of different. What does that mean? And you're kind of the same. I started telling people that. I like that. That was good. You can use that. When people say, you're kind of different, you're kind of odd, you weird, you don't fit in. Thank you. You're kind of boring and the same. You're just like everybody else. Anyways, so I needed to learn to be okay with being misunderstood. And the thing about having a relationship with God is I suspect that was for my growth. And I also suspect I'm about to be misunderstood a lot. And I need to be comfortable with that, whether it's intentional or unintentional. Because sometimes I don't always understand people. I don't understand, when somebody has something, does something, or is trying to tell me something. I don't always understand. I don't always get it. It doesn't make me not smart. It doesn't make me dense. It doesn't make, I just have a different way of understanding things. And sometimes people have a different way of understanding things. And maybe I can reach them that way. It's just like learning styles, understanding styles, and some people don't have the capability or the intellect to grasp certain things. So I need to be okay with being misunderstood, even if I have been clear, even if I have tried to explain myself 1,000 ways, or even if I feel that there's no need for me to understand why I like a certain thing, or why I want to do a certain thing, or how I dress, or I don't understand why you like your hair like this, or why you like this or that. You don't have to understand other people. We don't have to understand you. Let's just be okay with that. And let's not make things up either. So there's that. So that's my spiel for today. I'm going to go and walk. I'm trying to lower my A1C. My weight is staying the same, or I'm losing a little here and there, but my A1C remains high. And I know the reason why. So I'm trying to do a lot of, you know, live better and de-stress and contain different things and recover from this caregiver burnout and just burnout in life, period. So you have a blessed, wonderful day, and just don't worry about being misunderstood. It's going to keep happening. It's forever, forever. Just be okay with it, especially if you try to explain and make yourself clear. It is what it is.